just like that. That they were openly affectionate. They were truly brothers and sisters with each other. The lesson for today is fundamental to our faith. I want you to get this. This is important. This lesson here, I think, is one of the most fundamental ideas that Jesus has ever expressed. It is radical to the core. At first, when I was trying to do the lesson, I'm trying to think of things that had to do with enemies. So the title of our lesson is Love Your Enemy on Purpose. And that on purpose was added by me. That's not in the text. But it seems that we don't want to do that. Even accidentally, we don't want our enemies thinking we like them at all. So while I was thinking of stories of enemies and how I could do this and that, I was thinking of Romeo and Juliet. A wonderful story of two warring families, and how these two lovers found their way, one from one family and supposed to hate each other, and they fell in love. I said, nah, it's too long. Can't do that. So then I thought, well, maybe I don't really have to explain to you all what an enemy is. If I gave you 10 seconds to come up with 10 names that you consider enemies, you could probably do them very quickly, right off the top. And I am reminded every day. I'm reminded in the news about the political situation. Now, I don't usually preach on politics or take one side or the other. I do have Christian views, and I maintain those outside of the ideological political. But if you watch the news, you will notice that there is President Trump and those that hate him, and he's spewing poison to them, and they're spewing poison back. And it's just this enemy camps on both sides. And the debate on the southern border wall has just escalated. Some hate the idea, others love the idea, and they're shouting at each other. Wow, I think I'm going to stay away from it today. But just so you know, the heat that comes along with being an enemy, you can feel it. You can feel the passion. In my world as a contractor, one of the things that has shown me what enemies are, contractors work for money, right? We go out there and Dennis says to me, hey, Alan, how much to do my kitchen? And I say, Dennis, I'm going to need $12,322.13. And if he says okay, we put our John Hancock on the bottom and we do that. Now, suppose that I went and did all that I was supposed to do, and at the end of the job I had my hand out. I said, okay, Dennis, I want my 13 cents. And he says, Alan, I don't know. I don't like the color of the cabinets. You're going to have to tear them out and do them all over again. But, at that point, Dennis might be considered as a contractor, somebody who doesn't pay. It becomes that enemy, that whole thing. Wow, I put all this in, and here I'm sitting with my hand out, and I don't have anything to show for it. I understand that happens from time to time. I used to have a guy down in South Florida when I was younger, and he stuck us all. We were all subcontractors. He stuck us all for, just a few $100. How many of you know that a few $100 is a lot of money for somebody who doesn't have much? Yeah. That's a lot of money. If you're talking about $500-600 to somebody who's normally carrying around $2 in their pocket and, a checkbook with $25 in it, that's a lot of money. Well, the guy's name was Harvey. I remember to this day. So anybody who stuck us was then called Harvey after him. He became known for the guy who didn't pay his bills. So anybody like that, we called him Harvey. Well, there's a story that my wife has been involved with, and some of you know that we're married, and we talk a lot about things that hurt us, things that we kind of pour into each other's lives. So this particular time, Michelle was supervising over at a school and coaching some of the new teachers, and one of the new teachers looked extremely needy. She had 4 children and a baby on the way, and she had to find a home, and her husband was in some other country, and she just looked very needy. So the idea was that Michelle heard her complaint that she found a house, and the bank needed a contractor, a certified contractor, to come in and do certain work before they would allow her to move into place. And so they set aside a certain sum of money. I remember it was only $4,000. Only $4,000, right? Oh, if you only had $4,000 laying around. $4,000. So I carefully looked at it and I thought, man, this is supposed to cost $5,000. I mean, okay, it's Michelle's friend. She at work, they're workmates, all right. And Michelle's going, come on, honey, do this for me, all right? I know you're not doing it anymore for anybody else, but please, would you do it? So we did. I signed on the dotted line. And as I started doing all the repairs, there were little nitpicky things, a little air conditioning work, a little this work, a little paint around the thing. And so I got it all done. And I had a time period to go into. I got it all done. Went to the lady and I said, okay, it's time for the check. Oh, she says here's the bank said fill out this paperwork. So I filled out the paperwork. I sent the paperwork to the bank and they said, did you get an inspection? And I said, well, this is piddly stuff, putting on, little cords on the back of a dryer and stuff. There's not a whole lot of stuff to do. Painting soffits, we don't get permits for that kind of stuff. So we're not going to pay until you show us that you pulled a permit. And I said, okay, well, I went to the building department. This is after I'm done. I've already done all my stuff. So I went, I got I went to the building department and they referred me all the way to the building official, which you don't get to see him in Hillsborough County. He's a guy you don't get appointments with. Anyway, he wrote a letter saying, the work that is described in this statement does not need a permit. Good, I'm going to go get my money. So I took that piece of paper, and I'm exhausted by this time of just details. So went and gave it to the bank, and they said, well, what about the air conditioner? And I said, what about it? I said, we replaced one of the components. And they said, well, go get a permit for that, and we'll pay you. So I went to the AC contractor, who's a licensed guy, and I said, would you get a permit for me and I can get paid, okay? The problem is I already paid the AC guy. I had to pay him up front. So the problem came when the AC guy said, well, the piece of equipment I put in there, we really can't get a permit for because it works, but it's not really matching according to the code. So I said, well, we'll make it right, man. He said, well, I spent the money and So here I got stuck. Now I have two enemies. I have the bank who won't pay me and an AC guy who won't let me get paid on both sides. To this day, I still have that air conditioning unit. I had to take it back in order to settle the deal and get paid for the little bit I did get done. I got stuck I got two air conditioning units in my garage. I did put one in my house. I'm just saying I know what it feels like to have an enemy out there who, if I saw him today, I would feel, why did you treat me like that? Why did you do that to me? You cost me so much. So I wanted to say all that and I know that every one of you has got a story. Every one of you, we don't walk through this life. I don't care what age you are, how young or how old you are. We don't walk through this life without coming upon somebody who doesn't see things our way, who doesn't want to do it our way, who doesn't want to help us. As a matter of fact, who feels like they need to make their life's work to trip us up and to throw us under the bus every single time. Well, let's go to the Bible now, in the Sermon on the Mount. Now that I've said all that, let's see what Jesus says about that. You're not going to like what he says. Matthew 5, 43 through 48. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. So far we're good? So far we're good. Love your neighbor and hate your enemy. We're good. That Jesus said it, right? If we were to stop there, no problem. I just go on living my life. I don't have to change much. Love my neighbor. Yeah, I love you, Javier, my neighbor. And you got enemies? I'm going to hate them. Yeah, we're good. But I tell you, boy, when Jesus says that, we are in trouble. I know the people in that day were in trouble because he's fixing to tell us something that's going to be a whole lot more difficult than what he just said before. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Would you get through that okay? Has anybody passed out yet? Okay. That you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Don't even the pagans, the unbelievers, do that? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. I want to know where that quote came from that he started with. You've heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. Where did that come from? You ever wondered that? Because I couldn't find it. I found part of it. What I found was in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18. He says, this is Moses, right? He says, do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against anyone among your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. So the Lord is instructing Moses to write this down as a decree for the people. So we're supposed to treat our neighbor and our family and our friends good. This is what this is talking about. Didn't really talk about the enemies. If you know anything about Israel, they had enemies. Somebody who wanted their land, somebody who wanted their possessions. They would come against them. These kings would dream up things. I don't have enough land for my crops. My people, we could be a lot richer if we just took the Israelites' land over there and we just killed them and took their land and took their gold stuff and took all the good stuff from them. So God would go with them, and those were the enemies of Israel, but there was no really law on where God says, thou shalt go out and kill your enemies. It didn't really say that. That kind of comes natural, doesn't it? It comes natural. We want something wrong for our enemies. Listen, the Old Testament was full of references to enemies being handed over to God's people in war, and even some references that the enemies would win over Israel when they didn't obey the Lord. God would allow those enemies to punish Israel. But this statement of Jesus is radical and revolutionary to put enemies in the same place as neighbors. Man, those two. This is the radical change of heart required for us to become perfect. Does anybody here want to be perfect? I do. It's a hard road. It's a difficult road. Love your enemy and you'll be perfect. Love your enemy. Who can do this? Isn't an enemy by definition someone to defend yourself against? Isn't an enemy someone that you want to harm? If you believe in good and evil, then isn't an enemy evil? Isn't that the definition? The teaching, an eye for an eye, is about scorekeeping. We talked about that last week. Do not resist an evil person, says Jesus. Jesus did not say, do not resist an enemy. But here in these few verses, he speaks of praying for those enemies, those evil people in our lives. It's bad when an enemy shows up at work. It is worse when an enemy shows up at home. I've had the privilege to help marriage partners in counseling sessions, Christian counseling. They come in and usually it's about they've lost that love and feeling. Like the Righteous Brothers sang that song, I've lost that love and feeling. In Christian counseling, it's common for the Christian couple to run onto hard times emotionally and with their loving feelings. Some people say it's like a ship at sea, just sailing over the calm water until one day they find themselves on the rocks. They didn't see it coming, they didn't know it was coming, but the ship gets dashed when it gets on the rocks. So marriage on the rocks is like that. That's a metaphor. If Brenda were here, she would tell me that's not a metaphor, it's a simile. These are the times when sleeping with the enemy takes on a whole new meaning. I always use the time after a session to call the couple that we've talked about an issue or two and tried to implement some positive ways to get through this, to get the ship off the rocks and back into the good calm seas. And I always instruct them to pray for one another. And because of this verse, because of what Jesus said, pray for your enemies. And I thought, you know, who's the bigger enemy than a husband and a wife embattled against each other, throwing out that divorce word, and I'm going to get you, and I hate you, and all those ugly things that we say when we're angry and we're not thinking clearly. And so I have them pray for one another in the midst of all that. And I had a lady who was a Christian couple, and they had asked me to marry them, and I did. And they were kind of had been single a long time, let's say it that way. They had been, so they were kind of grooved into their way of doing things. And whenever you take two people who've got their own way of doing things, what happens? There's going to be a crash. There's going to be something's going to hit. I don't like that. You know, I don't like doing it that way. So in this particular case, they were having issues, and they came to me and said, can you have some counseling with us? So I did, and we talked about some issues, and I thought we made some good headway. And then I said, we're going to pray for each other. And I said, look, this is what you don't do. What you don't do when you pray for each other, don't try to fix the other guy in front of God. So the one girl said this, and my wife's going to laugh because she's going to know exactly who this is. Lord, please help my husband realize how much he hurts me when he says mean things to me. That's not the prayer for the enemies that we talk about. And yet that is what we want to use. God, bring him in. Come here, God. Be my coach. Be on my side. Because I want to win this battle, right? Oh, my wife's chuckling. She knows very well who that was. And the thing is, it doesn't take an unkind heart to act that way. It's our self-protective mechanism. We want to preserve our own self. At the core of being an enemy, we take our side and they're on that side, and we do battle one toward the other. It's hard to hate a person, however, that you are forgiving in your prayers. That you are saying, Lord, forgive my husband for being an idiot. That's kind of a double-edged one there. Forgive my husband for not loving me. Forgive my husband, Lord, for losing his job. Forgive my wife, Lord, for the messy kitchen or the messy this or whatever it is we expect out of each other in marriage, to ask for the Lord. And I think that when you ask for forgiveness for someone that you're at odds with, strangely enough, you become closer to that person, having given it to God. That's the key to this. There was a time when we had the helicopters at night. Speaking of at home, the helicopters were floating all around, and it's midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and Michelle and I, we retire early. I don't know if any of you retire early, but 10 o'clock, 10:30, that's it for us. We're down. Now, Michelle, she may be diligent and stay up till 11:30, but she pays for it the next day. Sometimes that's rare occasions. She can't go to bed until everything's done. But I can. So this particular night, we were both beat, and we were hearing the helicopter up there and lights shining all down, and so we're going, oh my goodness, there's something wrong outside. We better lock the door, and we better get the guns, and let's get ready in case somebody tried. We didn't know if it was a bank robber that had escaped or some mentally challenged maniac that was going to just kill everybody. You see the news; they're all out there. You never know. And but we figured there was an enemy outside of our house, and we needed to protect ourselves. And then I was thinking, if that situation occurred to you, would you be willing to pray for that enemy at that point? Even though it seems like it's a far stretch that you're going to see him. I mean, in the movies, they always knock on the door, right? And come in and kill everybody. And then the cops are still looking for him. I can't tell you where he is because he's back there behind. It's an unreal scenario. The movies, what they take this kind of situation. But in reality, we have an enemy outside. We want to lock our doors. We want to protect our family, the most close to us. Would the prayer look like this? Lord, please protect our family from the craziness around us now. We want to pray for that bank robber or whatever it is he did wrong, that he may know peace from you and find forgiveness for his crimes and a path to right living. Or would the prayer be something like this? Lord, help the police catch this lousy thief and get him out of our neighborhood. Amen. Which one of those prayers would it be? I want to impress on you that when Jesus said pray for your enemies, he didn't go into, now pray like this, our Father which art in. He didn't do that. But I want to impress on you not just any prayer, but the prayer of benefit and a prayer that person might know the Lord or might know the right way to go. And when you're praying for somebody, it tends to make you closer to that person. It tends to show that you care about that person. It's hard to have an enemy that you also care about. Do you want your enemies to rot in hell? It's a fair question. Do you want them to rot in hell? Do you pray for their destruction or for a blessing? The real lesson here is that love is stronger than hate. That faith is stronger than fear. When people mistreat you, and you will be mistreated by somebody at some time in your life, will you be nice to them after the way they have treated you? Or will the eye for an eye kick in? Michelle tells the story of a student that she also has. She's really done me good on this sermon. She's given me all kinds of stuff to talk about. She talks about a girl who came in who was rude to her. If you don't know, she teaches adult education. The kids are coming in a little older in age, some really old, and they're trying for the last chance to get their high school diploma, not just a GED. There's not a whole lot of difference, but she's on the side of giving them that. I graduated from high school, I have my diploma, and she had this girl coming in who was giving her attitude, man, attitude, big time. She'd come home, tell me about this girl who was just rebellious, wouldn't do anything she wanted, just hating on her. And I think she called on the office on you a couple times or something, complaining. And you know, when you do that, you don't find yourself as a friend to the teacher. You don't go call in the office on the teacher. Yeah, the teacher didn't do this, didn't do that. Would you make her do it? She became an enemy. But guess what? Michelle was still soft-spoken. Michelle was still helpful to the girl when she needed help. Here, I'll help you do this. Even in the course of being hollered at or ridiculed or called names. And now, the girl happened to tell Michelle that her mom was having knee surgery one day as an excuse of why not to take the class, why she couldn't be there. And Michelle told the girl that she would like to pray for her mother. It was a game changer, guys. What? Just that little bit? Just that little bit. The enemy went, and the friend came back. And the girl calls Michelle, and they talk sweet things. It's like she got a friend because she wanted to pray for this enemy's mother who was going to have surgery. Folks, you've got a witness out there. People are paying attention to what you do when your time comes up and the enemy is at your door, and how will you behave? People are paying attention. The girl has become a favorite student to Michelle, and none of that was due to the girl's intention or her behavior. It is the godly way to get rid of an enemy and greet a new friend. Michelle prayed for someone who acted like an enemy. The prayer is a powerful tool in our fight against evil. Folks, I want you to believe that. God will bless you in this world, but He never said that He would shield you from every evil person and every evil situation. He did promise that He would walk with you. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for Thou art with me. He promised He'd be with us. He's going to walk with us through the times that are the deepest and the darkest and the most heartaches. Show love in the face of hatred. Love is not just a feeling, folks. It's not just a warm, fuzzy thing. It's an action. It is something that you actually do for somebody's benefit. Do good to your enemies. I believe that one day you will find fewer and fewer enemies in your life if you act like a Christian in this hostile world. On the back of our t-shirts, you will notice that there is a saying. It says, we are at New Life Christian Church a breath of fresh air in a messed up world. And the world is so messed up that we misspelled breath with breathe out on our sign. Our brother Jesus brought that to my attention. We misspelled it. But you know what? I don't even care because the sentiment still goes on there. I'll get out there with white out one day and I'll get rid of that E. But we are a breath of fresh air in a messed up world. The world is messed up, guys. And Christians are the good stuff in this life, in this messed up life. We are different. We are countercultural. We don't do it the way everybody else does it. We are called to a higher calling. We are in the world, but not of the world. Give your enemies to God in prayer, and you will be blessed. He will know what to do with them. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. I will repay. You don't have to worry about it. The great judge in heaven will make sure that the balance is kept clear for you. And you may have to endure a little bit as you get ready for that day when the Lord comes back and calls us to be with Him forever and ever. You may have to wait a little while. We don't know. The Bible says soon. It's coming soon. We don't know how long that is. 2,000 years so far. 2,000 years, not quite 2,000 because He died in 33, right? So do the math. It's just not quite. The lesson is yours today. What does Pastor Allen want for you? I want you to walk in the steps of Jesus. I want you to do what Jesus did. Did he ever tell those Pharisees, woe to you Pharisees, you hypocrites? Yeah, he spoke the truth in love. He wanted them to repent. So if you got to do a woe once in a while, go for it. But make sure your motives are right. Not to do harm, but to bring them closer to the Lord. See, part of being a Christian is you do get rebuked once in a while. You get off the track, you go the wrong way, and somebody's got to call you. It's Michelle's job to call me. Hey, Alan, you're off the track, buddy. Let's come on back. Let's pull it in a little bit. Reel it in a little bit. Sometimes it gets to be my job to say, hey, Michelle, you're almost perfect. This little bitty thing you gotta look at right now. And she's already wondering what that is. I got her on that one. I don't know what your situation is today, but I want you all to be seen when Jesus returns as perfect. He's going to come down there. Yes, Pastor Javier, perfect. Get over here on my right. Enter into my joy. He's going to say it to all of you all. You are perfect. Yes, you can walk in perfection because he has given us grace. And it covers up our faults and our flaws and our messed up things, you know. It covers up me getting glue in my eye like an idiot. I let that happen, and it's okay. He doesn't see that. He only sees the good in us. But we've got to act like him. We've got to walk in his footsteps. There's a little responsibility that is ours to be like Jesus.